The movie begins with a young boy named Bruno returning home with his best friends from school. The boy cheerfully races past soldiers forcefully herding people onto army trucks in the streets of Berlin. It is the time of World War II. Bruno comes home to find preparations for a grand party underway. His mother Elsa reveals that Bruno's father Ralph, who serves in Hitler's army, has been promoted. Ralph reveals that their family is also moving to the countryside. Bruno's 12-year-old sister Gretel is excited about the news, but little Bruno is upset over moving away from his best friends Karl, Leon, and Martin. At the party, a proud father Matthias praises his son Ralph for his promotion and is hopeful of Nazi Germany's victory. While Bruno's grandmother Natalie is disapproving of the Nazi regime and wonders out loud whether it is she who's to blame for making a young Ralph costumes for his plays as a child, and if dressing up in costumes and uniforms still make him feel special to this day. Bruno and his family arrive at their new home in occupied Poland. It is a two-story house with a garden surrounded by high walls. Bruno spots people working on what he thinks is a farm in the distance, actually a Nazi concentration camp, from his window. Later, he inquires his mother if he can play with the children in the farm. He also wonders why the children and farmers looked so strange when suddenly an overworked Jewish man named Pavel enters the room with freshly picked vegetables. Inquisitive Bruno notices similar striped pajamas under Pavel's clothes that he saw the children and farmers wearing in the farm, and points it out. Elsa realizes that Bruno perhaps saw a concentration camp and rushes to his room to inspect the window. Later, Ralph gets Bruno's window boarded and Elsa explains to Bruno that he can't play with the children in the farm because they are different. Meanwhile, Gretel develops a crush on Lieutenant Kurt Kotler. Kotler is a young soldier who works under Ralph. Gretel increasingly spends more time with Kotler. Aboard Bruno while playing outside ventures into the forbidden back garden, but Elsa notices him sneaking into the garden and calls him back inside immediately. Bruno soon becomes acquainted with the family servant Pavel, who helps him hang his swing on the tree. While playing on the swing, Bruno notices black smoke coming out of the farm. He stands on his swing to get a better look but ends up tripping and hurts his knees. Pavel dresses Bruno's wound, but Bruno wonders if the wound is more serious and he might need to go to the hospital. Pavel tells him that it is a small cut. Bruno retorts that how could Pavel know that when he is not a doctor? Pavel then reveals that he was a doctor before he came there. Seeing Bruno getting bored and restless, Ralph arranges a tutor named Herr List for Bruno and Gretel for 2 days every week. Mr. List teaches them about the Nazi regime and gives them Nazi propaganda books to read. One day, Bruno, bored and curious, sneaks into the back garden again and manages to venture out into the woods. While running around and exploring the woods, he ends up near the farm he saw through his window. The farm is surrounded by a barbed wire fence. Bruno notices a little boy with shaved head in pajamas sitting alone next to the fence. Intrigued, Bruno introduces himself to the boy, who then reveals that he is 8-year-old Shmuel. Bruno is surprised by the boy's unique name, as he has never heard of a boy named Shmuel before. Seeing people building a new hut in the farm, Bruno asks Shmuel if he has a lot of friends inside. Shmuel responds that he has some friends, but he likes to sit there by himself alone. Bruno tells him that Shmuel is lucky that he has friends to play with. Bruno then tells him that he lives nearby, and Shmuel reveals that he is hungry. Bruno asks him about the number on his clothes, but the little boy runs back towards the quarters with his cement cart when he hears the whistle of a soldier. As Bruno is busy exploring the outside, Mr. List's teachings and her infatuation with Kotler is having a serious effect on young Gretel. She increasingly becomes fanatical in her support for the Third Reich. The 12-year-old girl even throws out her playdolls and covers her bedroom wall with posters and a portrait of Adolf Hitler. Whenever Elsa leaves home for town, Bruno sneaks out into the woods to hang out with his secret friend. Bruno asks him why the people in the farm wear pajamas. Shmuel tells him that they have to wear it because the soldiers took all their other clothes away. He further adds that he doesn't like soldiers. Bruno, on the other hand, tells him that he likes soldiers because his father is one. But he adds that his father is not the sort of soldier who takes people's clothes away for no reason. Shmuel then reveals that his father was a watchmaker, but now he mostly mends boots. A young Bruno ponders out loud why adults can't make up their minds about what they want to do, like his family's servant Pavel. Bruno then asks Shmuel if he knows what the soldiers are burning in the chimneys. Shmuel tells him that he doesn't know, as he is not allowed to go there, but his mom says it is old clothes. Bruno then invites Shmuel to have supper with his family, but Shmuel reveals that he can't go out because of the fences. Bruno retorts that those fences are just to stop the farm animals from getting out. Shmuel tells him that they are not for animals but to prevent people from getting out. Bruno asks him why he isn't allowed to go out. What has he done? The little boy responds, "I'm a Jew." A surprised Bruno then parts ways and promises to meet again. Seeing Gretel become fanatical and increasingly aggressive, Elsa is starting to get worried of the radical environment her children are growing up in. She soon learns the reality of Ralph's assignment after Kotler lets slip that the black smoke and the horrid smell coming from the camp's chimneys is due to the burning corpses of Jews. A horrified Elsa confronts her husband. Ralph reminds her that he is a soldier and he must fight wars. Elsa responds that what he is doing is not fighting wars, but he quickly retorts that it is a vital part of it. The fatherland they desire can't be achieved without works like that. Seeing her husband ashamedly taking pride in committing such unspeakable atrocity, Elsa breaks into tears. Later the family gathers for dinner with Matthias and Lieutenant Kurt Kotler. Matthias asks him about his new tutor. Bruno tells his grandpa that Mr. List makes him read boring old history books and doesn't let him read adventure books. Kotler then tells Bruno that, on the other hand, as a child history was his favorite subject, but his father wasn't pleased about it. Ralph, curious, asks him the reason, and Kotler reveals that his father was a literature professor at a university. Kotler's father left for Switzerland 4 years ago. An agitated Ralph further presses him why his father left for another country instead of helping in nation building. Kotler looks down in shame, and Ralph realizes that Kotler's father left Germany in opposition of Hitler's reign. Tensions continue to rise at the table as Ralph also learns that Kotler hid this information from his superiors. Angrily, Ralph calls Pavel and orders him to refill everyone's wine. Pavel accidentally spills Kotler's wine. In a fit of rage, Kotler drags Pavel into a room and beats him to death while calling him nasty anti-Semitic slurs. The incident disturbs little Bruno. After learning about the reality of the farms Ralph is in charge of from Gretel, Bruno starts wondering if his father is a good man. Gretel tells him that the Jews deserve it, as Jews are evil and their enemies. One day, Bruno finds Shmuel cleaning wine glasses in his home. Surprised to see Shmuel, Bruno asks him if he knows that they are not supposed to be friends. They are meant to be enemies. Bruno then offers Shmuel some cake on the table. As Shmuel eats the cake, Bruno asks Shmuel about his father. He asks if he is a good man and if Shmuel ever thought that he may not be a good man. Shmuel says he has always been a good man. Shmuel asks Bruno if his father is a good man. Bruno is unable to answer the question. Bruno then inquires Shmuel if it is really horrible in the camp when Kotler storms into the room, angry, seeing Shmuel talking to Bruno. He berates Shmuel and notices him chewing. Shmuel explains that Bruno offered the cake, but a scared Bruno denies giving him the cake. Kotler orders Shmuel to finish cleaning the glasses and tells him that they will have a little chat later. Back in his room, Bruno quickly regrets his actions and goes to apologize to Shmuel, but finds him gone. Afterwards, Bruno sneakily sees his father and other soldiers watching a fake film of the camp prisoners playing games, having meals in cafes, and attending musical concerts. Bruno, thinking it is real, goes to hug his father. Bruno returns to the fence every single day with his toys in hope of meeting Shmuel. One day, eventually, Shmuel reappears sporting a black eye from Kotler's little chat. Bruno apologizes to him. He asks Shmuel if they are still friends. Shmuel forgives him and they shake hands. As Ralph and Elsa's relationship continues to deteriorate as she is unable to make peace with her husband's work, news arrives that Bruno's grandmother has been killed in Berlin by an Allied bombing raid. At the funeral, Elsa notices a note and flowers from the Nazi Führer on Natalie's coffin. Elsa takes great offense to it as Ralph's mother Natalie was staunchly against the Nazi regime. Later, a huge fight follows. Elsa calls Ralph a murderous monster and tells him that she is taking Bruno and Gretel away from him to her sister's place. During their meeting, Shmuel reveals to Bruno that his father has disappeared after participating in a march. Bruno tells Shmuel that he has brought bad news with him too. He is moving away forever the following day. Shmuel asks him if he will ever see him again. Bruno tells him that he will and invites Shmuel to Berlin when everyone is getting on with each other again. Seeing an upset Shmuel, Bruno offers to help him find his dad to make up for letting him down. The next day, as Elsa gets busy with making final arrangements to leave, Bruno again sneaks into the woods through the back garden and runs towards the camp with a shovel. Shmuel brings an extra pajama and a cap for Bruno to cover his unshaven head. Bruno digs under the fence and joins Shmuel to help him find his dad. Inside the camp, Bruno is shocked to see many sick, frail, and weak-looking Jews. The little boys enter a hut looking for Shmuel's father when suddenly soldiers arrive and the boys are taken on a march, with other inmates by Sonderkommandos. At the house, Elsa finds Bruno missing. She frantically looks for him everywhere when she notices the door to the back garden open. In the garden, she notices a sandwich Bruno dropped on the floor next to a window that opens into the woods. Panicking, she storms into Ralph's meeting to alert him. Ralph and his men break the gate in the back garden and venture into the woods, with Elsa and Gretel following behind. They desperately look for Bruno in the woods and eventually a dog tracks Bruno's scent to his discarded clothing outside the fence. Ralph enters the camp and looks for Bruno in every hut. Meanwhile, Bruno, Shmuel, and the inmates are taken to a changing room and told to remove their clothes for a shower. They are all then packed into a gas chamber. Puzzled and scared by the chaos, Bruno and Shmuel hold hands, comforting each other. The light goes out and a Schutzstaffel soldier pours Zyklon B pellets inside the dark chamber, and the prisoners begin panicking in fear. After not finding Bruno in any hut, Ralph realizes that a gassing is taking place and cries out his son's name. At the fence, Elsa and Gretel hear Ralph's cries. Elsa falls to her knees and weeps in despair. The gas chamber goes silent, indicating that all the prisoners, including Bruno and Shmuel, are now dead.